terms and see what's missing, what do I have to multiply by, because since I do not have an equal sign, the best I can do is build up my fractions to have a common denominator. So for the first denominator, I'm missing that a plus 1, so I'll multiply a plus 1 for the numerator, a plus 1 for the denominator. You can just barely see that. Good. And here 3a minus 2 and a plus 1, I'm missing the 4x plus 5, so I'll put that in for the numerator and for the denominator. And I'm kind of squeezing it in a little bit so I don't have to rewrite, and that's perfectly okay as long as I can keep track that I've multiplied by the numerator and by the denominator. My last rational, I have 4x plus 5 and a plus 1, these two, so I need that 3a minus 2. And I'll put that with the denominator also. I'm going to show you one more little shortcut. I can go ahead and distribute here and write it 6a squared plus 6a. That's if I distribute the 6a inside here, and then I have a plus, and then distribute this 4 inside this parentheses group, so 16x plus 20, and then plus, and then I have negative 5a times that quantity, so I am going to need to change my sign, not a plus anymore, but a minus 15a squared, and then plus 10a. Now I know since I have a common denominator on all three that I will be able to just add those, so I'm just going to write them like this, and one more little shortcut, write an LCD underneath so I know that it is still a fraction and it has that denominator that's my LCD. Now I can focus on my numerator still. I have some like terms, a 6a and a negative 15a, so that'll give me negative, or a squared, I'm sorry, negative 9a squared, and then 6a and 10a, that's going to give me 16a, and then I have a 16x, and then I have a 20. Now, I would like to see if I can reduce this. So I'm looking, I will write out this denominator, 4x plus 5, and a plus 1. And I have 4 terms, so I really should think factor by grouping. And I look at this first pair, will I be able to pull something out? I'm going to write it over here. And I can pull out a no number part, just an a. So I can pull out an a, and I have negative 9a plus 16. And here, there's no way I'm going to get a 9 from either of these two. So I can see I can pull out a 4, and that'll leave me a 4x plus 5. But my factor pairs don't match, and there's not a way to make them match. So I should consider switching the order of my two middle terms, because oftentimes that'll help me factor this type of factor by grouping problem. So plus 16x plus 16a plus 20. And this isn't going to help either because my coefficient stayed 16. So I can still pull out this 4, except now it's an a instead of an x. And I can't pull out a number, but I can't even pull out a variable on this first pair. So there's nothing that I'm going to be able to do on this. The very last thing I could do is move the 20 in here in front of these two with the 16. So I'd have negative 9a squared plus 20 and plus 16x plus 16a, and try factoring that. These two, again, there's no common factor and there's no variable in common even, and this one does have a 16 that I can pull out, but then I have x plus a, and there's no x's here that would ever match. So this numerator is not factorable, so I will just leave it as I started. I have another problem that has 1, 2, 3 terms and no equal sign, so the best I can do is build up. And remember, I have to multiply by a form of 1 to do that, and there's no equal sign. So this negative here, the first thing I should be thinking about is let's move that up to that 1 so that we don't lose track of it. and then start factoring denominators. This denominator is a nice difference of squares, x plus 3, x minus 3, and this denominator, if I look at my sum of negative 6, product of a positive 9, 3 times 3 is 9, and also adds up to 6, but I need it to be a negative 6, so I'll try negative 3 times negative 3. That'll still give me a positive 9 and add up to a negative 6. So because I have a 1 for my coefficient on the lead term, I can go straight to my factor pairs, x minus 3, x minus 3. And my last denominator is already factored. Very quick and easy on this one. So I can go straight to forming my least common denominator. Remember, take both pairs or all pairs from the first denominator, x plus 3, x minus 3, and then look at the next denominator and pay attention on this one because I need 2 factors of x minus 3. Otherwise I can't possibly come up with this polynomial. So I need 2 sets of x minus 3. I already have 1, but I do have to put 1 more there to represent this second one here. And then look at my last denominator. I need an x plus 3. I already have a single x plus 3, and that's all I needed, and I can share it with this last denominator. So now I have 3 factors in my LCD, and remember I have to build them up by multiplying by a form of 1. For this denominator I have x plus 3, x minus 3. I'm missing that extra x minus 3, so I'll have to multiply x minus 3 for the numerator, x minus 3 for the denominator. And on my second rational I have x minus 3, x minus 3. So I need this x plus 3, so I'll make sure I multiply x plus 3 there. And I'll have to multiply it here too. And then for my last rational, I have the x plus 3. I'm missing the 2 x minus 3's, and I need to multiply by both of them over themselves. And just to double check, because I know sometimes I move too quickly, x minus 3 times itself, I can use FOIL and get x squared minus 3x plus 9. Here I'm going to combine my like terms in the middle, and I end up with x squared minus 6x plus 9. And then I want to use that in place of this x minus 3 times the quantity x minus 3. But the next thing I'll have to do is multiply it by this negative 1. So I'll go ahead and do that over here in the scratch area and distribute that negative 1 through, and I'll have negative x squared plus 6x minus 9. Now I can use that instead of this whole product, and I'll write it down, negative x squared plus 6x minus 9. Now I can go ahead and write my new numerator. I have the same denominator on all 3 rationals. So when I distribute this x inside the parentheses here, I get x squared minus 3x. And for my second numerator, I'll distribute it's a positive 3 inside these parentheses, so I'll have positive 3x plus 9. And then for my last rational, I have this numerator here. I did all my scratch work over here to show what I was going to do. So I have minus x squared plus 6x minus 9. And that is all over my common denominator. And then I can combine some like terms here. I have an x squared here and a minus x squared here. Those will just cancel. And then I have a negative 3x and a positive 3x. Again, those are going to cancel. A positive 9 and a negative 9, opposites again. And all I have left is that 6x. So I do need to write 6x over my least common denominator, which is x plus 3, x minus 3, x minus 3. There's one other way that I could write that, and that would be 6x over x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 3, And I can write it as a squared because I do have two of those quantities being multiplied. So either way would work, and there's my answer.